What does it mean to be a caregiver on top of being a mom to your own child? In part two of my conversation with Jessica Patay, we're going to step inside of the realities of raising a child with Prader-Willi syndrome, from the uncertainty surrounding her son's diagnosis to the constant vigilance, grief, love, and fear that will continue even into adulthood. Jessica's warmth and honest answers about her present and future concerns for her child aren't just about finding solutions and answers, but about speaking life into the women that are rising above these challenges every single day. Welcome to The Gentle Year, real conversations for parents who need a village. Welcome back to The Gentle Year, everyone. We are back with Jessica Patay, and we're going to talk about the challenges of raising a child with special needs. And I was just very honest with Jessica. I told her that I did not know what the disease was that her child was diagnosed with until this interview. So I would love for you, Jessica, to educate us on what Ryan's disease is and how you guys came about or found out that he had it.
So when Ryan was born, he couldn't suck and he couldn't cry. His testicles were undescended. He had breathing issues. And so right away, we knew something was wrong. He didn't wake to eat. He didn't, demand. He didn't cry. He actually didn't cry his whole first year of life. He could not suck at all. He couldn't take a bottle. We tried that on day 2 because he couldn't latch at all. He was very sleepy and he barely moved. And so he was born on a Friday, which is rough when you have a child with medical struggles because you don't have the whole team over the weekend that you normally would. So he got transferred to the peds ward. I don't know why we weren't in the NICU, but thankfully we were on the peds ward and we actually ended up with a private room. So I lived at the hospital for a month with Ryan. And, the phrases they were saying is hypotonia, low muscle tone, failure to thrive because he couldn't cry, didn't cry for food and could not eat. And he had something called transient tachypnea, which is a fancy word, for some breathing issues. And we just didn't know. So we spent a month not knowing. They were running a bunch of tests. My husband actually found Prader-Willi syndrome online because he looked up the symptoms that they were telling us that he had. And that's what popped up. And so he said, would you test for it? And 3 doctors said, well, Ryan doesn't look like it because there is a look, not as significant as Down syndrome, but there is a look. And he said, well, we don't have any answers. Let's test anyways. So because Ryan couldn't feed, he needed a feeding tube before we could go home. And so we said, teach us, we'll learn. We've got to get home. My husband needed to go back to work. My son, Luke, was 2.5 at the time, wondering where I was. It just kills me when I think back on that. Anyways, a week after getting home from the hospital, our pediatrician called to tell us the news. And in fact, Ryan was diagnosed with Prader-Willi syndrome. It is a rare genetic, medically complex disorder. In the early years, you're very much focused on milestones because you're born with low muscle tone. So all gross motor, fine motor, speech milestones are delayed. Like Ryan didn't walk till he was 3, even with early intervention, even with being on growth hormone, which is specifically indicated for Prader-Willi syndrome. And he started growth hormone at 10 weeks of age, nightly shots, and he still gets it. Then in childhood, this is kind of a crazy symptom, still to this day to talk about, is that an insatiable food drive kicks in. So the brain and body do not tell kids and adults with the syndrome that they've had any food. So Ryan doesn't say, I'm hungry all day long. He might ask for lunch at 11 o'clock. He might, ask for dinner at 4 o'clock. We are not locked into the clock for the food schedule, except for breakfast. Don't know how we got locked into 6:30 a.m., but we do. But having a food schedule provides food security, which is a phrase in our world. So having a food schedule, breakfast, snack, lunch, snack, dinner, sip of milk, no evening snack in our family, no seconds, really provides security. Plus, a big one is having a locked kitchen. So I really thought that Ryan's food drive would hit when he was 5 or 7 or 8. His food drive was a slow burn. And so by the time he was 13, we had to lock the kitchen. By the time he was 16, we had to be extremely vigilant, meaning don't open the fridge and run to the bathroom. He will be paying attention. So there's a vigilance around the kitchen that we all live with. And I'll never forget announcing to the family, okay, we're going to have to lock the kitchen. And we just, it's like so much dread. And oh my gosh, you open the fridge and the pantry 10,000 times a day. But within a week, we were used to it. So it's just a part of our life. We don't have anything in our freezer because it's kind of harder to lock. And no food on the counter, ever, 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 ever. But Ryan isn't in the kitchen, trying to take food when I cook or put away groceries, thankfully. Prader-Willi syndrome is a spectrum disorder. How you're affected in terms of the food drive, intellect, academics, fine motor, gross motor abilities. It's a spectrum. Ryan is now out of the school district. He did not get his high school diploma. We probably knew by the time he was in 4th grade that the gap was too big, that he was not going to get a high school diploma. He was in the transition program until he was 22, and then he exited out last summer. So we are in a whole new season. Fast forward to now, and our biggest concerns are the food drive, high anxiety, and behaviors. So even though it is a medical disorder, Ryan doesn't have a lot of medical issues. I don't really consider myself a medical mom. I feel like our battles are more psychological.
So what did you notice in 4th grade in terms of the academic component where you said, this is not going to happen, the gap is too wide? What were you noticing at that time?
I have no idea. I just, I just could see he was always in a special day class. He was always, in need of a one-on-one. And, he just wasn't, there were concepts that he wasn't grasping whatsoever. And I knew that even hiring tutors weren't going to move the needle. And he wouldn't welcome that anyways. It would be different if he was a kid who welcomed homework and was hungry to learn and push, but he wasn't. He wanted to be engaged. He wanted to enjoy the material in his classroom and the lessons and what have you. But he is not somebody who was looking for academic growth and challenges.
Yeah. What are his interests?
He loves people. He loves socializing and talking and asking questions, a million questions. He's very intuitive. He's very compassionate. He loves sports. He loves dog movies. He, will watch sports ad nauseum if we let him. He likes to go on walks. He likes to walk the dogs with, caregivers. He likes to go on hikes. He likes music. He likes audiobooks and workbooks.
That's awesome. So he likes to sort of read, but the audio version of that?
He likes to read, and he also likes to listen to books. I don't know if he's listening currently. He's given up a lot of his CDs. He doesn't have a phone, so he has a good old-fashioned CD player with earbuds, and so we still buy CDs. But recently he's been discarding a lot, so I'm not sure if he's listening to audiobooks, and his comprehension isn't great. He'll tell you he's read all of Harry Potter, but he can't tell you anything that happened. So he's reading, he's decoding the words, but he's not necessarily comprehending.
Supporting both readership and authorship are two of my primary goals at my writer-focused agency, Generational Copy, LLC. We work with authors from a wide variety of belief systems and backgrounds, and if you're interested in writing a book, please feel free to contact me anytime at ghostwriting@generationalcopy.net. Also, if you'd like to learn more about the authors we support, I'd like to direct your attention to Dr. Robert Gillespie's book on mental health disorders called Shared Humanity, A Field Agent's Journey into the Human Mind. And also, author Luke Roberts, whose first novel, Metafriction, is a widely popular book, particularly amongst neurodivergent populations. Both books are available on Amazon, and now we're back to our interview with Jessica Patay. For him, what does a day-to-day, like just a normal day, a baseline day, look like for Ryan?
Well, right now we're in between adult programming, so it's pretty tough. Before this, it would be he'd get up at 6:30, have his morning routine. Snack is, 8:30 or 9. We have caregivers that are coming and going because I'm working full time. So they might come at 8:30, they might come at 9:30. Um, he so daytime sleepiness is also a part of Prader-Willi syndrome, and his fatigue is pretty high, so he definitely would take a nap in the morning. He might go for a walk. He might have a little screen time, and then he'd go off to program from, they'd leave at 12:30. The program was 1 to 5. I'd pick him up, come home, dinner, take a nap, get up, and then do kind of the evening routine where it's, medicine and shower and PJs and his growth hormone shot and kind of wind down, brush teeth. I always do a sip of milk before bedtime as part of his bedtime routine too, but we don't do evening snacks or treats or anything like that. Oh, what I didn't mention, why we're careful about portions and no seconds is because in PWS, they have low metabolism. Ryan's pretty thin. I guess our genetic overrode the PWS genetics because he doesn't necessarily gain weight easily. He's not on a calorie controlled diet. A lot of kids and adults are because they gain weight so easily or because their food seeking drive is off the charts and they somehow get extra food because they're so good and so sneaky and so manipulative and able to get extra food somehow. Ryan's environment is pretty controlled and and right now because he's in between programs, he's here a lot. So it's kind of easy to control the environment. Everyone is really good about keeping the kitchen locked. And also all our caregivers know, don't have food in your backpacks or purses or whatever, put it, in the pantry and lock it up because he will dig around and look for something when you go to the bathroom.
Yeah.
Ryan goes to bed early. He usually goes to bed by 7 or 7:30. And then, well, today he was up at 4:30. Yesterday he was up very early too. So he's definitely a morning person. I wish he slept till 6:30. That would be really, really nice, but it doesn't happen very often.
I see. So is the food part of this a part of his adult coaching program? Like, will he be able to live out on his own or?
No. No. So even kids who go to college, a rare percent will go to college, kids who have PWS, but they're not going to go away to college. They're going to live at home where somebody is supervising them 24/7 because even if they might be, have low support needs, so to speak, where they are able to go to college academically and handle that. Usually there's still social issues, but the food drive is what prevents kids and adults with the syndrome ever being able to be independent. So Ryan will never self-regulate. He'll never cook a meal. He'll never grocery shop. He'll never go out to eat on his own. His food life will be completely controlled forever.
Oh, wow.
Unless now there's a new medication that's been around for 1 year that helps with that food seeking preoccupation with food. He's been on it almost 9 months, no changes. We'll have him stay on it up until a year and see if it's going to make a difference because it takes 9 to 12 months to take effect. We know people that it's changed their life. We have one friend whose daughter was able to go to a program at a state school for adults with disabilities. She was able to go because she was managing her food, her diet, her routine around food with great success because of the medication. Ryan will never live without somebody looking out for him. He'll always have 24/7 staff, whether it's with us or, somewhere else.
So in other words, his brain, I want to make sure I'm not getting this confused. This is not emotional eating. This
No,
is
not at all. It's genetically driven. Yeah, it's genetically driven.
Wow. Okay. That's really interesting. So when you started out, you were living in the hospital with him for a month, and I want to make sure I'm clear on this. The reason why you were living with him is because he wasn't, not living with him, but the reason why he was at the hospital was because he wasn't growing and developing the right way? Could you just repeat that for me? Because
Yeah,
it went
no, it
through
was
my ears, but there's so much going
yeah,
on. So go ahead.
because he didn't cry, he didn't suck, he could hardly move.
Right.
And then there were some other medical issues. And because they were trying to find out what was the cause of all of this, because
Got
it
it.
was pretty severe. There are some kids with PWS who might be able to syringe feed a tiny amount that might be able to nurse or bottle feed, so they go home. But he could not feed at all. So they were doing tube feedings.
So you went from that to now this. Wow. Two extremes.
Yes, it's crazy because you go from failure to thrive to, you know, a life-threatening food-seeking disorder.
I hope that they get a medication that works for him. I know that everyone's different and bodies, they respond to medication very differently. I know a lady who any medication that she takes, it has the opposite effect on her as it does for everybody else. Like it's the
Mm,
wildest thing. So she's one of those people that's sort of like an anomaly, a medical mystery
mm.
because yeah. So it's definitely an interesting thing. So for you, when you obviously realized that you were going to have to parent Ryan differently than your other children, what was that like for you? That moment where you said, "I am a caregiver now, not just a
Mhm,
mom, but a
mhm.
true caregiver."
Well, back then we didn't use the word caregiver. We would say special needs mom, but that's not really what's kind of used anymore. So that's how that term has come about for me, as the founder and CEO of We Are Brave Together, but also as Ryan's mom. Um, when we got that phone call from our pediatrician who thankfully delivered the news kindly, I mean, our whole world shifted suddenly. Like I was, this was my life before and this was my life after the diagnosis. And every mom remembers that phone call or email or doctor visit or what have you. Um, that shift. And
Did you
it's really
know?
scary.
Did you know what PWS was when they told you?
Let's see. At the time, I had slightly heard of it. I wasn't researching anything because I was protecting my mental health while I was living at the hospital. My husband had read up about it. He knew about it. So I knew a little bit, just enough, like crumbs, because I just didn't want to fill my head with it. And then as soon as we got the diagnosis, then I started reading all about it.
Yeah, absolutely. So I have to ask a question about love. I've always wondered this from a parent perspective because I'm not a parent. But when it comes to loving your children, I'm amazed and astounded at how different children are. I teach and I have kids they have siblings and they're so different. All of them are so
Hmm.
different as they come through. And so I'm wondering how you connect with Ryan and how you connect with your other children, what that looks like, because I'm sure it's very different for each of them. And
Hmm.
is in establishing those connections with your children, is it about spending alone time with them, having one-on-one conversations with them so that you can bond with them on that personal level? What does that
Hmm.
process look like when you're learning about your children and connecting with them on their own individual level as people?
Oh, that's a whole nother podcast.
Maybe we
Honestly,
can save that for section 3.
I don't know. That's a whole nother rabbit hole. I think, yeah, as a parent, you connect with each child differently. You love each child equally, but your relationship or your parenting could be different with each one. Your approach to each child could be different. The way you talk to each child could be different. Um, I think there's definitely trauma bonding that goes on when you have a disability family, right? We all have this trauma bond and PTSD. We all are like, oh my gosh, we can validate each other's, feelings, exhaustion, frustration, sadness, embarrassment, all of it. So there's that too. And we're bonded in our compassion and we're bonded in our empathy for Ryan and in our cheering him on. So um, there's a lot of connections, but it comes through time, intention, spending time one on one, trying to have some real good conversations and going through the different seasons with your kids,
Yeah,
your
definitely.
own seasons of growth.
Yeah, absolutely. I can see that there's something. There's something that's formed in the early days that changes a mom and just stays with
Mm-hmm.
you as a
Mm-hmm.
mom, as a caregiver, as a special needs mom. It just stays with you for the rest of your life. And
Yes.
I can
Yes.
tell that, correct me if I'm wrong, but I can tell this is psychologically very difficult, not just for Ryan. I'm sure he goes through his own set of challenges, but this has to be emotionally and psychologically weighing on you
Mm-hmm.
too. What types of emotions or what feelings, maybe it's not an emotion, but maybe a feeling, what feelings do you sort of carry with you each day that maybe other people just don't see? And it may not necessarily be your community of people that are there to support you, because I'm sure they see it all the time. They can just tell. And they're very intuitive women, I'm sure. But for
Mm-hmm.
people who are not a part of your immediate community, what are the feelings that you don't always get the opportunity to share? And have you had to create a different persona around
Mm.
people that don't live this type of life?
Well, I have some very dear best friends that don't have children with disabilities, and I can be me. I can say anything. They can ask me anything, and I'm an open book, and there's just so much love and care, even though I know they don't live my life. So I'm very grateful that I can say whatever I need to say, and I can be really, really honest. What I carry is grief. I don't, no mother wants their child to struggle or have pain or have um, a life that's not full of quality and meaning and with opportunities to thrive. And like right now, with Ryan being in between programs, I'm just so worried that he's so bored. I cannot be his cruise director either, but like he deserves, opportunities to um, learn and grow and have fun and, be involved in things that he wants to be involved in. And so we're going to figure it out, but it pushes the grief buttons. I don't like that he has a lot of time at home. I feel like he's very isolated. And I don't want that for him. I know he needs downtime at home, but I also want to strike a balance with engagement with life outside of home.
Yeah, most
Um,
definitely.
I think I carry a lot of fear about when Chris and I are gone and no longer taking care of him. And yes, he'll have Luke and Kate as co-conservators, and maybe someday they'll be caregivers. We don't expect that of them. They get to choose. But I I wish I could just take Ryan with me when I go because I don't want him to be without us. And that's really hard. I did a poll in our secret Facebook group for We Are Brave Together, and I said, what weighs on you the most in your everyday caregiving life? And the number one answer is, who will take care of my child when I'm gone?
100%. 100%. I think even for parents who don't have special needs children, they wonder, what's going to happen when I'm gone? Will my child be able to survive on their own? I'm sure my mom worries about that with you and me. And I'm 38. I don't have this particular situation, but you never know. Life could change on a dime, and it has for many people. So
Mm-hmm.
I appreciate you naming that fear and speaking that out loud because it's important. And so when you put that poll in your group and you saw that that was the answer that people
Mm-hmm.
gave, what did you feel? What came to the surface for you at that time?
You just feel the weight. You just feel the weight of it because there's not an easy answer. There are things that we have to do, and there are, things that we have to put in place, not just a special needs trust. You have to really figure out who you're going to ask to step in when you're gone. And nobody wants to talk about that. And it feels like we have nobody to ask. And I have a big family, and I have a big community of friends. But, if it weren't Luke and Kate or, my husband, if I go first, it's really hard to ask people outside of your immediate family to take that responsibility on.
Yeah, I can imagine. I wish I had more time with you. I do have a few more questions about that are going to be a little bit more empowering and hopeful and all of that. And so, storytelling, you have a book, and I know that you believe that storytelling, as I believe the same thing, that storytelling can be very healing and that the
Yes.
stories that we share really matter so much. Yes. Show us what you've got there.
So here's our second book coming out of We Are Brave Together. Our first book was called Becoming Brave Together, and it was an anthology of caregiving stories. And this one is called Suddenly Brave Together, Letters to Caregiving Moms at a Defining Moment of Their Lives. And it's 30 letters written by moms of adult children ages 18 to 45, representing different diagnoses, different parts of the country, and also a mom from Canada and a mom from Sri Lanka. And it's letters sharing their story, experiences, wisdom. And the audience, the intended audience, is newer moms grappling with a diagnosis of their child or toddler or baby or, teenager. Although I think it will validate every parent caregiver for
What
sure.
do moms and women generally feel? How do they react when the language, when what they've been feeling for so long is finally put in words in a special letter that's specifically written for them and their heart? How do they react when they read these things?
I think they feel like they're less alone. I think it validates them. They feel seen because moms feel isolated and hidden away and marginalized. And when you read other people's stories, it does help you feel seen and understood. And you have a sense of belonging and, oh, okay, me too. They all are saying how I feel and they're saying what I think and they're experiencing what I'm experiencing. I'm not alone.
Absolutely. Can you tell me a little bit, well, tell our audience really a little bit more about your organization and what you guys are doing right now? Because I know it's great things.
Thank you. So, We Are Brave Together is about 9 years old. It's a nonprofit, and our mission is to serve and support caregiving moms like myself. It is, we are all about preserving and protecting the mental health of caregivers. There's so much talk about kids, but not enough talk about moms. And usually, moms are, the primary caregivers in disability families. And so everything that we do is about really supporting the moms. We have connection circles across the United States, which we call our support groups connection circles. They are, in person, and we have virtual offerings as well.
That's
We
amazing.
also put on low cost respite retreats. So moms who are seeking a weekend off, we cover most of the cost. We hire a great speaker who's a coach or a therapist. There's mental health education, time for reflection, time for writing, time for fun, good meals, rest, downtime, and just being surrounded by other women who get it. They're pretty intimate, so 15, 16 people. We have those now across the United States. And then we also offer scholarships for those retreats as well. Our third offering is our Brave Together podcast. So information, inspiration, storytelling experts. And then our fourth offering has been our books. So we have our first book, Becoming Brave Together, that we released in 2024, and then Suddenly Brave Together that releases this year in May.
That's awesome. Thank you so much for that breakdown. Two more questions. First, where can we find you?
Go to wearebravetogether.org and you can find about me. You can find out about our organization, everything that we do, everything we offer. Follow us on Instagram at We Are Brave Together. You can find our podcast on all the platforms. We also have a YouTube channel where we'll post our podcasts and other things as well through the years.
Amazing. And this is a question I always ask all of the guests of the show. You can interpret it however you wish. And the question is, what do you believe is the most important education that a child could ever receive?
I mean, really, that they are loved, that they are safe, that their parents are there as a safe space and a comfort. I think that's more important than any skills or, um, you know, degrees or, sort of traditional education. I think knowing that they matter, knowing that their story matters, that they belong.
Definitely. Thank you. Jessica Patay, a round of applause for you for being here today. You are a warrior. Thank you. Thank you so much for being on the Gentle Year today. We are so glad to have you.
Thank you for having me. You ask fantastic questions.
Oh,
Thank you so much.
thank you. Appreciate you guys. And the listeners, Jessica, I'm going to invite you to be a part of our Facebook group if you would like to join us. Of course, there's no pressure or obligation to do so, but you can connect directly with the listeners to the show if they have questions.
That'd be great. Thank
Awesome.
you.
Thank you, Jessica.
Before we close today, I want to leave you with a few important takeaways that I gathered from this conversation. First, caregiving changes a family's life in ways that are often difficult to see from the outside, and I know that I have to do a better job personally of not making assumptions about what I see. Jessica is a very put together woman, and you would never know what she's going through by looking at her. In fact, she reminds me a lot of my own mom, strong, capable, and incredibly brilliant. Second, grief and love can exist at the same time. A parent can deeply love their child while also grieving the challenges, limitations, and uncertainty that come with their diagnosis. I'm not a parent, but as a dog mom, I just lost my baby, and the profound depth of loving and caring for a member of your own family, making sacrifices all out of love, putting that life ahead of your own is so much to describe that I just can't even put it into words. If you're in a similar situation, just know that I see you. Third, independence looks different for every child. As you probably know from listening to Robert Delena's episode and this one, a meaningful life is not defined by a diploma, a traditional career, or completely living alone. It can be found through connection, purpose, safety, joy, and opportunities for them to participate meaningfully in the world. Fourth, caregiving mothers need care too. Support groups, respite, honest friendships, and spaces where women feel understood are definitely not extras. They are actually essential. And finally, as Jessica Patay stated, one of the most powerful things that you can ever say to any child is that they are loved, safe, valued, and that their life is so, so important. Now, as you move throughout your own season of parenting or caregiving today, remember that you were never meant to carry everything alone. Be gentle with yourself and keep searching, keep looking for the people who are willing to become a part of your village. Also, if you're in a place to listen to another uplifting audio on personal development, take some time to listen to the free audio course, Your Wish is Your Command. It is available in the show notes. And as always, have a beautiful day, and thank you for listening to The Gentle Year.